Hi there, Kiwi Kodja here, and welcome to episode 44, Mātakitaki Part 1. It begins. This episode follows on from episode 43. It also follows on from the episodes 29 to 32, which cover Hongi's crushing victories of Ngāti Pawa at Maui Naina and Ngāti Maru at Totra in the Thames. A lot has happened in the last 6 months. Okay then, 2 weeks have passed since Hongi's triumphant return from the Waitemata and the Thames. The missionaries in the Bay of Islands complain about so many heads decorating the palisading to Hongi's amusement. The usual disputes over the distribution of slaves have settled down. 20 didn't settle into slave life. They feed the ovens. Hongi's allotment has broken in new fields at Te Waimati. Their bounty will convert into muskets. Chiefs that previously had a wait-and-see approach now court Hongi's favour. The fear of missing out is strong. News of Hongi's victories against their Tainui king at Maui Naina and the losses in Taranaki have left a pall of despondency in the Waikato. The death of so many chiefs in Taranaki has weakened Waikato and unsettled the social order. Auckland, the Coromandel and Western Bay of Plenty are continuing to empty. The coast is a dangerous place. Power in the Waikato and Hauraki Plains are swelling. The influx of refugees is stretching food supplies. Te Whero already has his hands full when intelligence informs him that Hongi's next target is the Waikato. Te Whero's head will be at the top of Hongi's list. Tauhanga have advised Hongi that the end of February is auspicious. This new threat has a wonderful, sobering effect in the Waikato. A new energy replaces the gloom. A hui at Kaitotahi Pa is called. The friction amongst the usual players is replaced with cooperation in the face of Ngāpuhi power. Surviving chiefs from Maui Naina explain their defeat at the hands of Hongi's army and the new danger of massed musket fire. Many say Hongi cannot be stopped and recommend going deeper into the interior. The logistics of this and feeding such a population in remote areas is not thought feasible. It's argued that Hongi would follow anyway. All agree that Hongi need to be delayed until the kumara crop is harvested in autumn. The hui discusses Hongi's possible routes. Coming down the west coast and entering the Whangaroa, the Aotea or the Kawhia harbours, and then marching overland is possible, but the west coast and harbours can be treacherous. Entering the Thames, then up the Waiho, is a possibility, but the least likely. The most likely route is the usual route, down the east coast, up the Tamaki River, over the portage at Otahu, around the Manukau to the portage at Waiuku, then along the Awaroa stream and into the Waikato River. Listening posts will monitor all options. Next, the Awaroa stream is to be blocked with trees. The Waipa River is also able to be blocked. The hui decides to make a stand somewhere on the Waipa. The Waiari Pa on the Mangauika, which is off the Waipa, is briefly considered but rejected for the Pa complex at the junction of the Mangauika and Waipa rivers, Mātakitaki. This is a complex of 3 pa, Pukitutu, Torakoia and Mātakitaki. With enough time, the palisading can be upgraded to withstand muskets. With all these things decided, the hui finishes. Their main concern is muskets. Waikato have less than 10 and little ammunition or shot. On February the 25th, 1822, missionaries record that the bulk of Hongi's fleet leaves Kerikeri. The journey down the east coast is marred by 2 canoes being lost at Maharangi Harbour, where Ngāti Whātua are blamed. Another take for another day. Journeying up the Tamaki River, Ngāpuhi checked the devastation they caused 3.5 months before. At Maui Naina Pa, large numbers of headless bodies are still feasted on by the gulls. The desiccated remains of men, women and children have lost their putridness. The pa is as they left it. The area now tapu to the Ngāti Pawa. The outlying kaianga have fields with regenerated crops. They take what they need. Everyone is pleased to leave. The portage of the canoes at Otahu takes a day and a half. They leave on an incoming tide for the Waiuku River, and 4 hours later pull their canoes out of the Waiuku stream and make camp. Smoke from campfires is spotted in 3 different areas during their Manukau leg. Hongi sends scouts to find candidates for their ovens. None are found. Slaves take their place. The next morning, at dawn, a small canoe is portaged to the Awaroa. The river is explored. Mid-afternoon, the scouts return. The Awaroa is only 2 to 4 metres wide and very tortuous. The first 6 kilometres is through dense flack and raupo, the height of which limits view on either side to a few metres. The remaining 6 kilometres is through a kahakatea forest. It is this area that's been blocked. The chiefs debate the options. Going out through the Manukau heads and back in through the Waikato heads is argued. Many believe it can be done, especially in March. Others share stories of canoes and kin lost at both entrances. It's the tauhangas that divine that the Waikato portage and the Awaroa are blessed by 2. Hongi will leave his canoes in the Waiuku River to patrol the Manukau and surrounds and gather provisions. The Manukau is famous for its sharks, and they'll be a welcome delicacy. Feeding 3,000 warriors is no small matter. Late afternoon is spent setting up camps at the Waiuku and the Awaroa ends of the portage. They will be here a while. In the morning, the biggest canoe and the smallest canoe are portaged the 3 kilometres to the Awaroa. After 1 week, 600 metres of trees have been cleared. In the swampy areas, they cannot get traction and have to dislodge, then float logs upstream to firmer ground and drag them out. Steel axes have made a huge difference. Meanwhile, Waikato spies relay the progress back to Te Wherowhero. They estimate Ngāpuhi could reach the Waikato River by mid to late May. All pa along the Waikato River are being abandoned. Their food stocks canoed to Mātakitaki. At Mātakitaki, the Waipa River is crammed with canoes. A number are brought into the pa for water storage. Many are taken to Mangauika Pa, 5 kilometres up the Waipa at the junction of the Pūringo. The Mangauika Pa is taking the overflow from Mātakitaki. There are 7,000 at Mātakitaki, with refugees still arriving. Upgrading the pa is a huge task. To upgrade the palisading to withstand muskets requires 5,000 trees of a certain diameter, which need to be cut, trimmed, transported, shaped, dug in and lashed. All this with mainly stone and wooden tools and human sweat. Nearby suitable trees are becoming scarce. They have to go further up and down the Waipa for stock. The entrance ditch across the land junction of the Waipa and Mangapiko has been deepened, the faces made almost vertical, Workers need ladders to get down and up. The Mātakitaki section of the pa is at a lower level than its surrounds and can be easily inflated. So the traditional man-proof palisading will remain and the area will be used as a kāinga and evacuated once the Ngāpuhi arrive. The palisading around Torokoia and Pukitutu will be upgraded, with the northern side the priority. The pa resembles a factory. Groups are working on sections of the palisade, crews lifting the logs from the rivers into the Mātakitaki section and prepared, dragging lanes kept open. Forays are dismantled and moved as required. The ovens are in continuous operation. New arrivals are assigned to their nearest kin. The tool makers are flat out. The apparent chaos is well organised. After being at it for a month, routines are developing. Activity goes from dawn till well beyond dusk. Evening festivities are rejected for food and sleep. Oh yes, wonderful sleep. 3 days of heavy rain in late February washes away the obstacles placed in the Waipa River and turns the pa complex into a quagmire. With summer slipping away, weather's a real concern. Hongi's progress is steady, but halfway through the Kākatea forest, the hauling of logs to dry areas is an issue. Crews are sent to the Waikato end of the Awaroa to start from there. The conditions are extremely difficult. Everyone takes their turn. The biggest canoe is pulled along the Awaroa to test the clearing. In some places, the tight bends are dug away. Monotonous days of the same hard work continues. Jobs are rotated. Morale stays high. In early May, the crews from each end can hear each other. Another 4 days should do it. In the second week of May, the two Ngāpuhi crew meet. 2 more bends need altering, and the large canoe finally makes it into the Waikato. In anticipation, Hongi sends warriors to scour the Waitakeries for kai tangata. Pickings have been lean, but an area of known occupation has been left unmolested until now. They return with 35 bodies, mainly women and children. Alas, they are all rather thin. The fields around Mauinaina supply the potato, cabbage and kumara. A celebration feast honours this massive effort. The rest of the fleet will be portaged in the morning. Te Whero is informed by the scout that Hongi's fleet is entering the Waikato. In 3 days' time, they can expect him. The months of preparation will now be put to the test. The perimeter of Torokoia is finished, but Pukitutu's southern perimeter is not complete. Some old palisading will have to do. Entrances and exits in the palisading needed for the upgrade are reinstated and readied for war. The herd of pigs in the Mātakitaki section are slaughtered and smoked. Anything useful in that section is now moved into Torokoia and Pukitutu. The surrounding cultivations are stripped of all crop. The movement of children and wives to other pa commences. Many refuse to leave. 3 days pass, no sign. On the 4th day, mid-morning, the occupants hear the Ngāpuhi fleet's distant chant. There is a rush to the parapets in the northwest corner of Mātakitaki to see the awesome sight of the fleet rounding the last bend. It is May 1822. It is time. Okay, that brings us to the end of this episode. Now, I've put links to the references I have used below as usual. Now, there's a very good description by John Jolliffe of the Awaroa River as it was in 1853, 21 years after Hongi. He states that the Awaroa was around 13 kilometres. Today, it's been highly modified and straightened and is only 5 kilometres. Accounts agree that the Awaroa was blocked by the Waikato forces and that it took Hongi over 2 months to clear. Here's an extract from Jolliffe confirming the same. The number of logs and trees in the Awaroa River quite astonished us, and we were puzzled to account for their numbers and how they came here. Afterwards, we were told that in the year 1820, actually 1822, the celebrated northern chief Hongi Hika determined to invade the Waikato tribes, who, to keep them from coming, cut down the trees and flung them into the river from one side to the other. The in-between details are an educated guess of possible events. The activity at Mātakitaki is constructed from my logical imagination. The Mātakitaki complex itself will be the subject of the next episode. This will help in visualising events now that Hongi and his Ngāpuhi army of over 3,000 warriors have arrived. Anyway, that's it for now. I'd love to read your comments, so don't be shy. Take it easy, stay safe out there, and catch ya.